I think I need to quit my job and go find another one. That's what Allison, a listener, wrote to me. She said, there's no money in nonprofits. I had to chuckle. The irony of that statement. Allison continues, everyone I know who does what I do works for a corporation and makes nearly twice what I make. I think I've got no choice but to move away from nonprofit work. Having a heart is costing my family too much money. Ooh, now that's a topic we need to investigate. I'm Jeremy Fisher. This is The Awakening. Everybody knows what nonprofits are. The description's in the name. They're charitable organizations that provide a service or a product, only their motivation isn't to make a profit, it's to help people. But does that mean that if a for-profit business is operating with the primary purpose of making a profit, that it's not helping people? Nonprofits and businesses both offer a product or a service, generally. Is a nonprofit really just a business that has to rely on people giving them money to succeed? And if that's the case, do lots of nonprofits just operate under a bad business model? This is a really tricky set of questions. They almost sound like they're attacking nonprofits. Nonprofits are generally started and ran by people who have really good intentions. Asking these questions that sound like you're attacking people's life's work and good intentions seems downright evil. But what is evil anyway? Lots of people think paying your workers less than they deserve is evil, but unfortunately it's often nonprofits to do that more than businesses. And is it good to allow a poor business model to operate when a better business model might be around the corner? Don't ask Kevin O'Leary unless you want a brutal answer.
You know, when I see an idea I really hate and I know it's going to fail, I often say, take that idea behind the barn and shoot it.
You've probably heard of Kevin. He's known as Mr. Wonderful on the TV show Shark Tank. I always wondered if that was a self-given title. He's the guy sitting in the middle with a shiny bald head, black pressed suit, beady eyes, and fingers folded into each other like a pyramid. It's almost like he wants to look like Mr. Burns from the TV show The Simpsons, who's a classic archetype of the careless, greedy rich guy everyone loves to hate.
I want to be graphic about it. It's like Old Yeller. You got rabies, your idea's going to die. You might as well kill it and be merciful and go do something else. Taking it behind the barn and shooting it is the right thing to do. In money, there's just black and white. Either you make it or you lose it. So you might as well deal with the truth right from the get-go. If you're doing something that's going to go bankrupt, why not deal with it now and start something else that maybe will be successful? The truth is what's important, not the fake side of things, because you're always telling yourself things are going to work out, when in reality, sometimes they don't. Deal with it, get over it, pick yourself up off the floor and start again. That's what entrepreneurship is all about.
Kevin's take is that bad ideas are bad for everyone. They're bad for the person that starts them because they're usually wasting time or money that could be otherwise spent on a good idea. They're bad for the employees or the workers of the organization because they'll never be paid what they deserve. Kevin doesn't want bad ideas around because he thinks they're bad for people. And that's sort of a noble stance. Maybe Mr. Burns, Mr. Wonderful, actually has a heart after all. Now that's all fine and good when we're talking about businesses, but what about nonprofits? All of them are set up to rely on other people giving to them. They can't provide the products or the service they give away without relying on donations from other people, right? That's a problem another Shark Tank alum set out to solve and pretty much change the world as a result.
We mainly focus on two needs. Shoes for school, because in many countries in the world, if children don't have the proper footwear, they're not allowed to go to school. Mm-hmm. So we really try to focus on partners that are about empowering education. And the second thing is foot diseases. There's horrible, hookworm in Central America, podoconiosis in Ethiopia and the Congo. And so we use our shoes to either protect children's feet from a disease or to enable them to go to school, because that's really in poverty alleviation, it's really education and jobs, and we really try to focus on that.
That's Blake Mycoskie. Blake is the guy who started Tom's Shoes. I'm sure you've heard of Tom's. It's the wildly successful apparel company whose primary business revolves around shoe sales. Disappointed that his name isn't actually Tom? Yeah, I was too. Apparently that's a common mistake. The original name of the company was Tomorrow's Shoes, but the word tomorrow wouldn't fit on the label. Tomorrow's Shoes is actually a pretty fitting name because Blake's business has often been lauded as the way every business will run one day. Are Tom's shoes the most comfortable shoes you'll ever wear? No. Are they the most stylish? No. Are they the cheapest? No. So why have hundreds of millions of people bought Tom's shoes? Because Blake found a brilliant way to build trust with his potential customers and help the world at the same time. Tom's Shoes was one of the original one-for-one companies. Buy one, give one. Tom's gives away one pair of shoes to a child in need for every pair of shoes they sell. Blake had a life-changing trip to Argentina, and he wanted to give kids who couldn't afford shoes, shoes. It's a noble cause, right? But Blake didn't want to make that happen by going and begging people for money. He knew there were already over 1 million nonprofits in the U.S. alone, and standing out among nonprofits is nearly as hard as standing out among businesses. Nonprofits compete for donors, almost like businesses compete for customers. Blake's approach was to create a product that looked really cool, was good quality, and served a great cause. Remember that example we covered last season in the branding episode where I said no one would want to buy a pair of shoes from a nobody? Who would want to buy a pair of shoes called Tom's Shoes, especially if the guy selling them isn't even named Tom? Blake solved that problem by giving his customers an instant way to trust him. And he brought something called social entrepreneurialism to the forefront in the U.S. Social entrepreneurialism has existed since the 80s, but businesses like Blake's have been credited for taking the concept mainstream. Social entrepreneurs finance their philanthropic causes with the profits their businesses generate. People buy products from social entrepreneurs because they say to themselves, I'm not sure about you or your product, but you seem like a good person because you're doing nice things for other people, so I'll buy from you. This is not only a brilliant way to solve the branding trust problem that usually crushes new businesses, but also generates a very profitable business and incentivizes other businesses to design their business the same way. Blake created a product that was good and had enough profit margin to accomplish the philanthropy he wanted to do. That's really all social entrepreneurialism is. And it seems so simple. Why wouldn't every business do this? Well, many of them are. Today, if you head to New York City and throw a stick up in the air, it'll probably land on a business that has a similar one-for-one model. Soapbox Soap Company, State Backpacks, This Bar Saves Lives, nutritional bars, they're all operating under Blake's one-for-one model. Nearly every startup today gets asked by venture capitalists how they're helping society along with making a profit. And the trend continues to grow. According to a 2018 Deloitte survey, 40% of millennials believe that, quote, improving society should be the primary goal of any new business. It's no surprise why many college graduates start their job search in the nonprofit sector. The only problem is they usually either settle for a pay cut or feel like they have to sell their souls to go work for a corporation and make real money. The structure is a little off kilter. If good-hearted employees realize their best chance of earning a higher wage is to leave a nonprofit, nonprofits are faced with a talent bleed. That's a challenge that's taking its toll. The National Center on Charitable Statistics reveals that 1 in 3 profits fail to exist after 10 years. And according to Forbes, over half of all nonprofits fail within a couple years. Many nonprofits are scrambling. They're even bringing in sales consultants to train fundraisers on how to increase giving from donors. Actually, according to Nonprofit Hub, fundraising is the same thing as sales. They state that, quote, fundraisers and salespeople try to convince customers in the fundraising world are donors, that their product in the fundraising world is the cause of which you're raising funds, is worth the investment. And that there's really no difference between fundraising and sales. So wouldn't it make sense that if you're already operating your nonprofit kind of like a business with salespeople asking to give money for your cause, that you might want to go ahead and just structure your nonprofit as a business that actually makes enough money to run itself? Now, this is where I start sounding like Mr. Burns, just for asking that question. Jeremy, are you really saying that all nonprofits should stop asking for help and start relying on themselves? No. What we're considering here is that the nonprofit structure might be a model that could use an update. And people who have ideas for a charitable cause might want to think about their idea more like a business that would need to actually make sense, rather than a business that would fail if not for other people subsidizing it. I'm saying that profit may not be the evil boogeyman that our society sees it as. One thing that's worth noting is that you and I are poking at a subject that has a lot of tentacles. We're hovering around the ideas of capitalism, free market economics, business ethics, and all kinds of other deeper discussions. The question of can businesses be run ethically is a weird question to think about. Remember that Deloitte survey? 40% of millennials polled said they believe that improving society, not profit, should be the primary goal of a business. That sounds well-intentioned, right? The problem is that businesses that don't make a profit don't last long enough to have any impact on society. They go out of business. Pretending that profit isn't more important than having a good cause is the kind of trap that the evil Mr. Wonderful is trying to warn us about. And nonprofits that are busy making societal improvements their number one goal might want to think about things a little differently. Social entrepreneurialism could be the key to turn their story around. And people like Allison might not have to feel like they're selling their soul to earn a good living for their family. The world of business 20 years from now might look really different. The lines between for-profit and nonprofit companies might start to get a little blurry. For every loaf of bread you buy, maybe a loaf of bread will be given to someone in need. Buy a car is given. Buy a house is given. And at the heart of it all is profit. What kind of world would that be like? Is that just a naive pipe dream? I don't know, but it might be something worth considering.
I don't think you really have to separate the compassion part to the competitive business person part. And I'm very proud that we make profit. And from day one, I said, this is the way that I truly believe it's sustainable. Because that kid that needs the shoes to go to school, they don't just need one pair. They need another pair in 4 months, and they need another pair in 4 months after that. And the greatest way to sustain that giving is to continue selling. We don't have to sacrifice profit to do good.
That's it for today's show. You can find business and career ideas at theawakening.com. If opportunity doesn't come knocking, let's build a door.